Recently, I decided to buy Ori and the Blind Forest, partly in anticipation of the upcoming sequel which was featured at E3 just a couple weeks ago. When I loaded it up, I was immediately brought into the captivating atmosphere of the game. The plot is simple enough for the player to immediately grasp, and it's conveyed in a way where we feel for the main character, Ori, who certainly isn't deserving of the tragedy that befalls him. This gives his journey a sense of purpose as well as urgency. The first thing that captured my attention wasn't the visuals, but it was actually the music. This game easily has one of the best scores I've ever heard. When you look behind the scenes, it's easy to see why. A wide variety of instruments, from strings to brass to synths, are utilized, which can create a stark contrast in mood at any time. At one point, I think I heard the vibrations of a wine glass used to make a ringing sound effect at this part, right here. If you don't know what a wine glass sounds like, here's an example.
Just take your finger and rub it along the top. Oh, you can hear that beautiful tone that we're getting right here.
Now, if that isn't considered musical genius, then I don't know what is. Different music styles are used from biome to biome, which tend to correspond with water, wind, fire, and corruption. Beyond this, the cutscenes display some of the best music in the game, which has a deep orchestral feel, perfectly capturing Ori's desperation as well as Kuro's plight. This game is a masterful example of visual storytelling. Its ability to convey its story without dialogue is, in my opinion, what makes it so spectacular. Many people have expressed how this game has brought them to tears. Seriously, it's pretty ridiculous. Not me though, I didn't cry.
Whatever. It's not sad.
Well, what makes it so emotional, and how is it able to tell its story so well? Most importantly, it's about a bond between a child and a parent, which almost everyone can relate to at some level. Take the scene Kuro's sacrifice, for example. When Naru approaches Ori, Kuro doesn't wipe them out despite having the power to do so at any time. We then see a flashback to her past experiences as a mother, showing us that she feels a sense of selfless obligation to protect her young. At every moment, you can tell exactly how the characters are feeling. When Gumo bashfully surrenders the water vein, or when Ori struggles to find hope, there's no need for a dialogue box to appear, or even for the narrator to tell us in his majestic voice,
Ori was sad.
If, while you were watching this, you couldn't tell that Ori was sad, there's something wrong with you. If there's one complaint I have about the story, it's the lack of clarity on why Kuro's owlets died. I have a feeling it has something to do with the owl's nature being antithetical to the light energy of the forest, hence why Kuro died when returning the spirit orb. But that would just make the spirit tree the main antagonist of the story. If you pay attention in the last cutscene, the tree has dozens of little Ori leaves, and on top of this, it knows Ori is in good hands. Was the loss of Ori really enough to justify the death of Kuro's young? This isn't so much a negative because it ends up adding additional depth to the story and shows Kuro's anger stems from a reasonable cause, but a simple line was in order, clearing up why the spirit energy was harmful to them in the first place. Okay, so as much as I'd like to see Ori and the Blind Forest get its own movie, this isn't just a review of the cutscenes, so I think it's about time I gave an analysis on the gameplay. The beginning of the game, the tutorial essentially, starts off with nice pacing. You aren't introduced to the entire world immediately, which is okay. It allows part of the story to be told through gameplay. Until you get the first few abilities, your path is very linear, which is dictated by the nature of the game. This more linear start of the game was expanded upon by the Definitive Edition, which added a new area and ability specifically used for opening paths. Your movement is limited, which forces you to rely on the environment more in order to get from point A to point B. Once you get the double jump and wall jump abilities, the world is opened up to you, and you can cover quite a bit more ground now. Dash is a neat tool that was added in the Definitive Edition, and it helps you traverse wide open areas a lot faster. I also like the ability of warping to save points because it was kind of annoying to traverse the whole map if you wanted to pick up ability cells or to get other items. In my opinion, what really made the gameplay for me was the bash ability. You do get access to this ability fairly early on, but when I replayed the game I found myself rushing to get it, which felt like when the gameplay portion actually started. It makes moving around the world very fluid, and it's fun to zip around enemies with so much freedom over your movement. There were a couple instances where I found myself having a lot of fun before getting Bash, like the areas where you could jump on those blue flowers that give you a height boost. It's satisfying to move from one platform to the next without getting the feeling of having to wait. I'm not saying the gameplay was a bad experience, but in contrast to areas where you could do this, areas like this seem to be missing something. Maybe instead of waiting on platforms, you could be shot out of some rotating spirit plant energy cannon or something, which serves the same purpose of timing the player to perform an action, but it seems more exciting.
Well, that seems sort of derivative, right?
Yes, I'm referencing Donkey Kong, but just because an idea is present in one game doesn't mean it can't be adopted or built upon. In a way, using Bash sort of feels like being shot out of a cannon anyway. Other than that, there's only one small thing I'd change. When you collect life or energy cells, the game doesn't recognize you've done so until you land. This means if you collect one and use Bash or Kuro's Leaf to float away, the game could pause, and if you land next to an enemy, it could cost you a life. This could be an easy fix, and it's relevant especially since there are some cells that require you to climb to high altitudes, meaning it's not uncommon for you to collect a cell a while before landing. Now that I'm done nitpicking, I'll talk about Ori and the Will of the Wisps for just a moment. It would be cool to see a cooperative experience, where you can take turns playing as Ori and as the Owl, or perhaps both at the same time. There could be abilities that are unique to each character used to solve puzzles, unlock doors, or create paths. Looking just at the trailer, it doesn't seem like there's going to be much of that, however, we did get a look at different combat abilities that appear stronger and more versatile. Really, I'm excited to see anything that Moon Studios puts out, and I'm sure they'll come up with an experience that's just as, if not more, stunning.